Welcome to the Tradier Rundown. I am Jim Uriel. That's Bob Acino. You just told me right before we cut that you drink 12 shots of espresso a day. Here, I have some questions. How long does it take before you feel like the caffeine surge? Does it come in right away?
It comes in right away, but doesn't last anymore. That's the problem. Like it hits me within 20 minutes. And then 45 minutes later, I'm literally a self-induced narcoleptic now from all this espresso that I've been drinking most of my life.
So it's a double-edged sword. There's no free ride for energy, right?
No, there's only trade-offs. We all know the Sowell doctrine, the Thomas Sowell doctrine.
Right. Okay, let me finish my intro because we're such professionals. Well, this is Tradier Rundown. I'm Jim Uriel. That's Bob Acino. We together are the host of Tradier's The Trader's Edge, which airs at 3 p.m. Central Time Wednesdays. It comes out live on YouTube and on Twitter, and then we repost it after that. Robert, today we are going to talk about the potential for de-dollarization, because the world reserve currency, which we've had since 1944. Okay, 75% of global central banks used to hold their reserves in dollars. 75% of those reserves in dollars. That number's gone to like 59% in 25 years' time. Same time, gold has rallied. Gold's rallied recently. Is it a valid concern to think that with big players like China and Russia de-dollarizing, that we might lose our reserve currency status?
So I've figured out my ridiculous comedic way to explain this to people.
Okay.
De-dollarization is real, but so is COVID. So in other words, it's not as serious as some people would have you believe that it is. Right. If we get a 5 or a 7 or a 10% or even a 20% de-dollarization, you are still Mount Everest distances away from the dollar not being the reserve currency. Now, the biggest threat to that is Bitcoin to me. Not necessarily BRICS or anything else, but in the short term, the BRICS countries have made people believe that there is a serious effort ever since the reactions by the West to the truckers in Canada, specifically, that was a Canadian reaction, right? Mm-hmm. And the reaction of the West with Russia, taking them off the SWIFT banking system, et cetera. I saw an article the other day that Nigeria was looking to buy some of their own gold, which probably means just take it, but buy some of the gold that they're mining and put it in their central bank to try and remove themselves from the fluctuations in the US dollar, which is another form of de-dollarization.
So here's my take on it. I want to know if you agree with me, is that I think de-dollarization, I'm in the Brent Johnson camp. I think if we were going to de-dollarize, it would take 20 years at a minimum, just because it's so entrenched in global trade. But I do think if enough people think it's possible, my dollar hedges like gold, silver, platinum, real estate, Bitcoin, which have all done quite well since I've had them on, which I do have them on. And I'm actually looking to add silver on a move higher out of the pattern that it's currently in. Do you like that? I'm not trying to predict it's going to happen. I'm just trying to predict that others are going to think it's going to happen and flock to these assets. And the traders were supposed to capitalize on that. Good theory?
Yeah, I like it a lot, and I'll relate it to Bitcoin. Okay, and you know me, we talked about this since 2022. You've owned gold, I've owned gold. We both have had physicals. We've traded the futures from the long side, and same thing with silver. But I'll relate it to Bitcoin here. Even if you get another 10 or 15% de-dollarization, the dollar's still the world's reserve currency, but gold will be twice the price it is now. Bitcoin will be in the hundreds of thousands per coin because it's just very big numbers. It's just a very big set of numbers when you start looking at other currencies being functionally reserve, like secondary reserve currencies, which there's nothing right now, right? Yeah. I mean, even central banks were buying gold. India has been still buying a lot of gold. China slowed down, but so has their economy. So you're seeing emerging markets buy a lot of gold now. And if that continues, your hedges are going to be, they're not going to be hedges. They're going to be your main money-making positions.
They're going to be my house by the beach, I think, if things go the way I think it's going to go. You mentioned China. They've gone 2 months in a row without buying gold, but India has also stepped up. So I think it's interesting. And I think you're right about China, is that underneath their economy isn't doing quite as well. And that's why they've taken some time off. By the way, Bobby mentioned the dollar. The dollar, as it relates to the dollar index, that's a trash index. All it really is doing is measuring the dollar against the yen and the euro. Do you guys give that much of a shit how many yen and euro your dollar can buy, other than an occasional trip to Italy, which, by the way, I'm going in October. But so you got to measure it against a bag of groceries, a bar of gold, things like that. You agree, of course, right?
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, the dollar itself, you have to look at it versus individual assets. My favorite one is the euro, just because it's a very liquid pair. But I've been looking at a lot of dollar British pound to US dollar lately. And I do that in the British pound futures in the micros. But I like looking at that one because that one is where inflation is down to 2% already. Yeah, we just saw Hugh Pill today, who's the chief economist of the Bank of England, say that he's uneasy with the idea of cutting rates yet because he's seen some troubling signs.
Interesting.
Reflation, if it's coming in the US, it's coming globally.
No doubt about it. When you trade the pairs, it's the last thing is that you're trading the stupidity of our central bank against the stupidity of their central bank.
Thank you.
When you trade gold, you're trading the stupidity of our central bank against assets. Anyway, this is the Tradier Rundown. I'm Jim Uriel. That's Bob Icino. Please join us 3 p.m. live Central Time every Wednesday. You can find a link on Twitter and on YouTube. See you there.
You know how the financial world goes. Here comes the buzzkill. Please make sure to take some time to read this boring disclaimer. We will owe you one.